Hello my dear friends and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. We're going to be talking about The Acolyte. We're going to start with some lore and theories, and then we're going to be covering the latest news. So no more jibber jabber, let's begin. Did you know this character is an absolute paradox? You might recall if you watched my full breakdown and review of The Acolyte's first 2 episodes that I said I love the aliens in this show. Well, I wanted to go into more depth about Yord Fandar's Padawan Tasi Lowa. Due to her species as a Zygerrian, it renders her position as a Jedi Padawan rather paradoxical, because historically the Zygerrians were an enemy of the Jedi. During the time of the Old Republic, the Zygerrian Empire was sanctioned by the Jedi because of their involvement and association with slavery. Thousands of years before this show, the Republic banned it, and so the Jedi who served as the guardians of peace and justice began an anti-slavery campaign within the Outer Rim. As part of it, the Jedi targeted the Zygerrians, and following a brutal conflict, they were crushed, and many of their enslaved species were liberated. Their empire was fractured, and so the Zygerrians retreated to their home world. The Zygerrian Empire provided slave labor to the rest of the galaxy. Their customers prospered, but they were a force for evil, and so the Jedi tried to squash it. But during the High Republic, so during the events of this show, the tradition of Zygerrian slavery was continued through the Zygerrian Alliance. The Nihil marauders maintained relations with the Zygerrians, often selling off prisoners to them to make a profit. And this makes Tasi Lowa a very intriguing case. She's not even the only Zygerrian Jedi during this time, but the historic sour tensions make the existence of these Jedi pretty remarkable and maybe tragic. In the case of Tasi, if she was taken as an infant from Zygerria, this may have come with huge protests from her family and the locals who saw the Jedi as a fundamental enemy and child kidnapping scum, but this is the only life Tasi has known. And did you guys notice in the background we also have a Selkath, a species of aquatic beings from Knights of the Old Republic? But this is not the first time they've made an appearance in canon, because we saw them in the Clone Wars series, Master and Apprentice, as well as some of the High Republic books and comics. Not to mention a brief appearance in Darth Vader issues number 5 and 15. We know Leslye Headland did take a lot of inspiration from the expanded universe, and I guess this might be one of her favourite species. Even if it's just a background character, I think this kind of thing is really cool. I'm always on an Easter egg hunt in Star Wars shows, and this one really surprised me. Considering Neil Scanlon worked on this, we only expect the best, and he did give us that in the form of aliens. I've given my criticisms on the show so far, and what I didn't like, but if there is something I did, it's the aliens. Let's hope we see some more Jedi Knights and Masters, who have alien species too. But I've got to give it to the end of the episode where we see the world of Kofar, where Kalnaka has isolated himself, following whatever happened with the twins on their homeworld 16 years ago. And it was kind of like a Sasquatch, Bigfoot type of situation, scaring off those who have legend of a Wookiee in the forest, and I'm curious to learn more about him. And so now, my dear friends, on to some Acolyte news. Since the release of The Acolyte's first 2 episodes, a lot of fans have been saying that Jedi Master Sol, played by Leslye Jinn, is the High Republic version of Qui-Gon Jinn. There is undoubtedly a big connection between the 2 characters. They made visual references, and the George Lucas meme, "It's like poetry, it rhymes," comes to mind. And even the actor Leslye Jinn acknowledges there was a strong Qui-Gon Jinn influence on his characterization. That is the main Jedi he is based on. But something which so many are getting wrong, and something which Leslye Jinn just admitted in a brand new interview, is there is a fundamental difference between Master Sol and Master Qui-Gon Jinn. Sol is a more emotional character, not as stoic as Qui-Gon, and definitely not as confident in and of himself. They share similarities in trusting the Force, doing their own thing, not always listening to the Jedi Council and instead following their instincts. But Master Sol at this stage of his life is not nearly as wise as Qui-Gon is going to be 100 years down the line. And so Leslye Jinn says, "I really tried to find the connective tissue. The reference to the wise yet headstrong Qui-Gon offers the biggest clue in terms of the sort of Jedi Sol is going to be in the show. But he's got more of an emotional range, still attached to the past, something Qui-Gon Jinn, more often than not, definitely wasn't." Lee says, quote, "I realized in the script there was more of a humanistic element to him. His emotions are constantly in flux, and so when he's in battle, he actually does feel the element of fear, much more than Qui-Gon in episode 1. He says, and I think because of that, Leslye created a Sol that was extremely humanistic, and she did that with the other characters too. They all embody such a diversity of emotions just like regular people, and this is the difference between the Jedi during the High Republic and the more stoic nature of the Jedi by the time of the end of the Republic. And I really do think they're implying a death for Master Soul at the end of the show, a heroic duel of the fates that poetically rhymes with Qui-Gon's death. You know, I love the character of Master Soul and I think Lee Jung-jae is a fantastic actor, but something that Disney Plus Star Wars is plagued with is fan service that makes you do the Leonardo DiCaprio meme, pointing at the screen and saying, "I remember when that line was said," or "I remember that visual reference." So did you catch some of these in The Acolyte's first few episodes? There was a nod to Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan visiting the Trade Federation vessel. Yord Fandar and his Padawan Tasi were supposed to be an allusion to the start of episode 1. Then there was the reference to R2-D2 saving the Naboo cruiser, when we're told only R2 droids are supposed to do outer ship repairs. Also, Osha being inducted into the Jedi older than other younglings, similar to Anakin, who was considered too old. Then we have the Jedi becoming too emotionally detached, foreshadowing one of their greatest flaws. And my absolute favourite, when they were trying to arrest May, Jackie repeating a line from Mace Windu, "In the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic, you are under arrest." Were you also sat there waiting for, "Are you threatening me, Master Jedi?" The Senate will decide your fate. I am the Senate. Not yet. Sorry, just got carried away talking about one of my favourite films. But in other Acolyte updates, this is very interesting indeed. The viewership numbers for the very first premiere of the show have been unveiled. But can we trust these metrics? I'm gonna say, we don't know. They don't specify if this number, 4.8 million views, is for both episodes, the two combined. Is this just for the US? Or is it for every single Disney Plus customer across various countries? How did they come to this number? A very similar conversation for Mando and Ahsoka, because 4.8 million does sound impressive on its own, but if this is just 3% of the entirety of the database of Disney Plus users, it's not. And it doesn't account for rewatches. We don't know how they came to this number and it comes from Variety.com. The Acolyte reaches 4.8 million views in one day, biggest Disney Plus launch of 2024. It's cool to see the numbers for the first 2 episodes, but the real test of time is going to be week to week. Episode 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. How many fans who saw the initial opening 2 episodes are going to keep watching? Because that always varies and wavers. A lot of fans are watching it out of mere curiosity, and the Jedi mystery thriller seems to have garnered quite a bit of attention. And finally, Leslye Headland says she wants to make a live-action Knights of the Old Republic, featuring Kreia, a fascinating character we've spoken about before. Should Leslye Headland touch the Old Republic? Well, this is the big question. Some say a resounding no, others say, well, why not? She knows how to write a TV show, but I guess, would it do it justice? I would say it mostly depends on the success of The Acolyte, the High Republic show. But share your thoughts on everything we spoke about in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.